Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to see everybody. I hope you enjoyed this morning's sessions. So I am a patient for over 23 years, diagnosed, 7 years misdiagnosed. And so Bob and I founded this foundation 21 years ago because when I got diagnosed, there was nothing out there. There was no information. The doctors told me I was going to be dead in 5 years. I had young children, and so it was very difficult. So that's why we found this foundation. I don't have slides. Oh, there we go. So it's not unusual for NETs to be misdiagnosed during the diagnostic progress. Many patients go untreated for years and are diagnosed with the wrong disease. How many people here have been diagnosed with the wrong disease? How many have been diagnosed with irritable bowels, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis? How many of you have ever been to a doctor who said you were crazy? It was all in your head. That's God's honest truth. There's a little running joke with a lot of us older NET patients that if you haven't been told you're crazy at least 3 times, you really are not a NET patient. During my diagnosis, then I was bleeding from the rectum, and I had gone to several doctors. And one doctor in particular, Robert and I are sitting in the doctor's office, and Robert's holding my hand. And the doctor said to us, "Have you ever considered going to marriage counseling?" Robert and I looked at each other and said, "What?" And he said, "Well, I think that all her symptoms are because it's a bad marriage. Maybe you should talk to a counselor." Robert got up and said to him, "I hope you don't expect us to pay for this office visit," and we walked out. So, it's very frustrating to get diagnosed. It's very frustrating after your diagnosis. You go online, you read things. I want to tell you something. Those Facebook pages, they're great. But please remember to take everything on those pages as a grain of salt. People who go on those pages do not go on the pages to tell you good stories of how they survived or how wonderful they are. They go on there to complain and to tell you horror stories. Like you'll go on there and say, "Hey, I'm having such and such surgery next week. What should I expect?" You don't have patients, many patients go on there and say, "Well, yes, the surgery was difficult, but I survived it, and these are some tips." What you usually hear is, "Oh my God, it was horrible. I couldn't eat. The pain was unbearable. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do this." So please remember that each one of us are different, okay? Even though many of us have it in the small intestines, or may have it in their lung, or may have it in the pancreas, each one of us are different. And that's why we use the zebra as a logo. Because each patient each of us have fingerprints. The fingerprints of a zebra are their stripes. No 2 zebras have the same stripes. And even though we all may have the same disease, we are all different, just like the zebra. So for 7 years nonstop, we were searching and searching. I was bleeding from the rectum. I had 6 doctors said it was the IBS, Crohn's disease, possibly lupus, but I knew that there was something wrong. My 7th doctor was great, and I said to him, "You're going to do a colonoscopy and endoscope. You go in there and do not come out until you find what's going on." I say, "Because I can't live like this anymore." And the doctor said to me, "Had anybody ever used a pediatric scope on you?" And I kind of looked at him and I'm like, "I'm in my 30s. What the heck are you talking about?" And he said, "It's longer, more flexible, and I'm going to get into where I think the problem is." And sure enough, it was in my ileocecal valve. So I had my endoscope and my colonoscopy. Sure enough, it was in the ileocecal valve. I had my tumor removed. I had a right hemi done. I thought that I was free and clear until about 3 months later when all my symptoms came back. How am I doing now? Generally, I'm doing good. Do I have my bad days? Absolutely. I was very lucky because I had doctors and had the connections to make to see specialists and to be able to have doctors that thought outside the box. If I didn't have doctors that thought outside the box, I wouldn't be sitting here, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today. I had carcinoid syndrome so bad that I was going to the bathroom 40 times a day, flushing, even on 120 milligrams of sandostatin. That's 4 injections a month, and I was still having symptoms. So thank God I had a good doctor who had me go on an insulin pump filled with octreotide 24/7, and I did that for many, many years, and that's why I'm still here today. So generally, I'm good. Do we have scan days? Is there scan anxiety? Absolutely. But what you have to think about is that you can't think about nets all the time. You need to live your life. It's okay to think about it during scan time. It's okay to be stressed out when it's time to get your test. But I want you to go out and live your life. Most of us are going to live a long time with this disease. But if you stress out about it all the time and you have carcinoid syndrome, that's only doing more damage to you than good. So, try to advocate for yourself, try to be proactive, attend conferences like this, go and do as much research as possible about the disease, but also live your life. Remember to go to your doctor appointments. Just because you have neuroendocrine does not mean you're not going to get breast cancer or prostate cancer or ovarian cancer. So you need to make sure you stay on top of those tests as well. So when I was first diagnosed, information was really rare. There was one organization, and that was the Carcinoid Cancer Foundation. And I'm truly, truly grateful, Dr. Warner and Monica Warner, for having that foundation, because I felt so isolated. And they kind of took me under the wing, and Robert under the wing, and taught us the way to become advocates and things like that. And so we started the support group in Long Island, and it became a lifeline for many patients. The telephone number that we still have today is our personal home number. Our number got out on the internet through AIM, if any of you remember AIM. There was no Facebook, TikTok, or anything. And our telephone number got out there. And so we ended up having to get a second line in because so many patients were calling our house that my kids or my family couldn't get in touch with me. So to this day, 21 years later, we still have the same telephone number. So this is really, really hard for me, so please bear with me. Sharing what we learned with others helped everybody and advocate for better care. How many patients have ever called NCAN hotline and have spoken to me? We do this for you because I have been in your position, and I am probably in a different position than a lot of you. Not only am I advocating for myself, but I'm advocating for each and every one of you. And it hits home because I have a daughter with it as well. And we are not MEN1, and we are not familial. And my daughter has it as well. She was diagnosed at 22 years old. So this is important to us. This is a family affair. You've all met my husband, Robert. In the back of the room in the gray shirt is my son, Michael. Michael, since he was about 17 years old, has recorded every one of our events and has posted online. Michael does podcasts several times a month and does all that. This is not only for this generation, it's for generations to come that we do this. And some of these people up on the screen is Dr. Richard Warner, who founded the Carcinoid Cancer Foundation back in 1968. On your left is Dr. Thomas Odovicio, who passed away last year. Dr. Thomas Odovicio was at the University of Iowa. He was our first speaker and helped very much being an advisor on the NCAN board for many, many years. And of course, underneath Dr. Warner is Dr. Eugene Waltering, which he only lost a couple of weeks ago. Gene Waltering was an amazing doctor. Patients either hated him or loved him. He was very, very direct. The first time I met him, I was at a conference in California, and we were in Santa Ana, and it was the Santa Ana winds, and the fires were going, and there's ash flying everywhere. And yes, I was a bad person. I smoked. I did. and Gene Waltering was a chain smoker. So we're outside, standing outside the hotel, and I said to him, hey, can I ask you a question? And he's like, sure, anything for you, honey. And I said, I got diagnosed with carcinoid. I also have lupus. I have ITP. And the doctor wants to give me some chemo and wants to give me interferon. What are your thoughts? And he looked at me and he said, honey, come with me. Then he took me over to Dr. Kjell Oberg, who is a big doctor in Sweden. Sweden, right? And he took me over and he said, Kjell, will you please speak to Maryann? So I gave him my whole history and everything else, and he looked at me and he said, come here. And he takes me over to the doctor and he says, taps him on the shoulder and he says, you see this woman here? You give her chemo or interferon, she's going to be dead in 6 months. He said, don't take it. So it was what my heart had said. I didn't want to do the chemo or the interferon. So I go back outside and I found Dr. Waltering and I said, hey, thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it. I said, but now that I have the information that I have, can I have your honest opinion? And he said to me, girl, he said, if that doctor told you to take the medicine, you go for it. He said, but if he said not to, he said, you put on your running shoes, and he says, and you never look back. And that's exactly what I did. And from that moment on, Gene Waltering became a big, big part of our lives. And he was not only an advisor, he spoke at over 75 of our 80 of our conferences. He was a father figure. He was a family member. He did so much for this NET community that a lot of us would not be here today if it was not for him and his research. He was one of those people who taught me how to be an advocate. Gene Waltering would give out his home phone number and his cell phone number, and patients could call him directly. He put it out on the internet, and he answered the phone day or night for patients. And that's why NCAN is what we are now. Because if it wasn't for him showing me how to do that, I wouldn't be here today, and I would not be doing these conferences. He was the one that kind of pushed us through. So in my heart, I know he's up there watching us, and he's very proud. He's probably yelling at me, putting tears in my eyes, and saying, stop being an idiot. But we're really grateful for him. And there's also Dr. Bill Go, and on the bottom is Charlie Nutting, and Dr. Lowell Anthony, who is at the University of Kentucky, who is now treating me. So what we wanted to do at NCAN is to grow NET awareness to patients, medical professionals, and to the general public, and to help patients and families navigate and to collaborate on research. So outside is a sign and it says, every family has a story. Welcome to ours. When you pick up the phone and call us, or you come to these events, you become part of the NCAN family. Not only the NCAN family, you become my family. And I'm always here for you to talk through things. If you're having an issue and you're trying to find the right doctors, we don't list the doctors online. We will only send you to doctors that we know are good at doing their job. If I wouldn't go to the doctor, I am not sending you to the doctor. So that's what we do. We're family. We need to watch out for each other. We need to advocate for each other. I want you to take out the pin in your bags. I want you to wear your pins. If people ask you, I want you to share your story. It's important you share your story because you never know who you might be talking to, who might actually be a patient that is undiagnosed with NETs and say later on to their doctor, oh, I met this woman, maybe all my diarrhea is caused by NETs. So advocate for yourself, advocate for others, share your story. We collaborate on research behind the scenes as well as doing papers. We work with the pharmaceutical companies. If you ever see anything posted online from me or an email, when I send out an email for you to participate, they have all been vetted. There are companies that I've worked with for years that need the information that you can share to make sure that we get new medications out there. When I was diagnosed, we had 10 specialists in the world. We have hundreds of them now. When I was diagnosed, there was standostatin and octreotide scan. An octreotide scan was a 3 to 5 day scan that you sat there with your arms up in the air for hours and hours at a time. We now have so many new treatments, and you can help us by doing these questionnaires or becoming part of a clinical trial. If you have questions about a clinical trial, call us. We'll discuss it with you, your options. That's how we improve the patient's life, is by getting these clinical trials up, getting these new drugs out there, and getting these research projects together. We have a hotline. The hotline number is open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Yes, I answer the phone on Christmas, New Year's, Easter, whatever the holiday is. I'm there, okay? My kids laugh because on the way to Michael's wedding, we were in the limo, and I was on the phone with the patient, and my daughter's screaming at me, "Why are you on the phone? You're going to your son's wedding. You should not be on the phone." And I said, "No, a patient needs me. They need to get the answers they need. We will get to the wedding on time." We have the conferences that you're at here. Check out the website because there's podcasts on there. We have live streams. We send out free information packets. Come to support group meetings. If you're in Tennessee, Paula is over there. Please talk to her. We're talking to other groups. If you're in a state that doesn't have a support group, let me know. We do training for support groups. Come to awareness events. Come to do the walk. It's as simple as buying a T-shirt. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, the one that's wearing the T-shirt over there. I'm sorry, what's your name? Your T-shirt. Lisa did the walk last year, and she's wearing last year's T-shirt. So just by wearing that T-shirt, you're spreading awareness and education. Do the surveys and help advocate for yourself. Tell your story to your friends, to your family. I know it's not pleasant talking about diarrhea, a lot of us, but it's a matter of fact that every person in this room gets diarrhea at one time or another. Every one of us. So it's not something to be ashamed of. So NCAN has done dozens of research studies through the years. We've worked with different organizations. We worked with the pharmaceutical companies. We worked with NOLA. We've worked with Kentucky. We've worked with New Orleans. We've worked with a lot of groups. And it's very important to have the advocacy research. We are a rare disease. I don't think we're as rare as people. I think we're just underdiagnosed. That's my belief. We are a low priority, so we don't get a lot of research money that we really need. So if you want to join us and do some projects or anything like that, reach out to us. We're always available, and we can help us by spreading the word. This is just about the ProNut study. So just so you know, NCAN is here. We're here to help you along the journey, and we're here to support you. So if any of you have any questions, please come and reach me outside. And thank you for listening, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being your own advocate, because just by being in this room right now, you are being your own advocate, okay? One other thing, I always do this in the beginning, and I don't know if you did it. Okay, so I always ask the patients to raise their hands. Have you been diagnosed less than a year? Please raise your hand. How many have been diagnosed less than 2 years? 3 to 5 years. 5 to 7. 7 to 10. 10 to 20. 20 plus. I'm not planning on going anywhere soon. So I am going to be celebrating 24 years in February, and I'm really excited about that. And so I don't know who's next. You're going to take over. You take over. And so if anybody wants to talk to me. I'll be outside the rest of the day. And again, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. And another thing is thank you to each and every sponsor. Make sure you please stop by the sponsor tables. If we don't have those sponsors, they are the ones that sponsor these events. They are the ones that are doing the research on the medication to make better outcomes for our treatment. So please make sure you stop by and say hello, and thank you.